I'm not looking forward to this. But we got to talk about it. Another article from RT. I'm up on this subject, very much so. Wish I wasn't. Court banned me from teaching son basic rules for boys. Father of 7-year-old slated for transition. This is about James Younger. Know the name? Then you understand my reaction. Jeff Younger, who is locked in a court battle with his ex-wife whether their son should undergo transition to a girl, says a court order bans him from discussing things like religion or the need to be respectful to girls. Jeff and his former spouse, Anne Georgelis, are trying to resolve a parental dispute over their son James, and insists that James identifies as a girl, calls him Luna, and envisions hormone therapy and eventually sex change surgery in the future. Jeff rejects the idea and says his son is perfectly comfortable being a boy in his presence. The pair are fighting a legal battle, with the court temporarily ordering Jeff not to impose a male identity on the child. Yes, he acts like a normal, healthy boy when his mother's not around. That is because at some point she is actually imprinting on him the expectation because she wanted a daughter. This is an actual phenomenon that occasionally occurs, and almost entirely only with female parents. If they express disappointment or even, dare I say, dysphoria with their child's gender, they may actually attempt to do something about it. Like these two lesbians down in South America who murdered a boy they adopted trying to make him into a girl. Because they were convinced somehow. They were radical extremists that were convinced that men were bad by nature. And I'm not saying that's what she thinks, but you understand how someone could be disappointed or dysphoric understanding what a child's gender ultimately turns out to be. Which is why she might try to imprint and impose onto the child what she expects of him, which is to be a girl. The order forbids Jeff from calling his son James in front of anyone who knows him as a girl, and this significantly limits what they can do together. He told RT's Sophie Shevardnadze, basically, I can't go to school, I keep him away from any friends he might have at school that knows him as a girl, and know him as a girl. In my home, he's known as James, and I use male pronouns. What I'm prohibited from doing right now is trying to convince him that he's actually a boy, he said. The court's ruling means that Jeff, who is a very religious Orthodox Christian, has to be careful when discussing his faith with his son. He said he also is cautious about teaching James how to behave decently so that his words cannot be interpreted as imposing a male gender identity. I'm even a little trepidatious about reading the book of Genesis as we go through our Bible readings after Pascha. He said, so I've had a lot of trouble communicating with him on religious issues and on basic things that you've had to teach boys. Issues around self-control, how they should deal with women, older women, being respectful to females of their peer group. It's very difficult for me to figure out how to do this without violating that order. In short, they've literally severely handicapped his ability to even be a father. This is sickening. This is disgusting. Jeff said James was misdiagnosed with gender dysphoria and simply wants the approval of his parents. The court asked us to take them to social services and let the boys express their preferences. Yes, James has a twin. I do not remember what the twin's name is. But thankfully, their mom is not imprinting on that one at all. Thankfully. And what James said was he wants to be a girl at his mom's home and a boy at his dad's home. He basically wants his parents to love him. We're talking about a 4 to 7-year-old child. Alright? Children at this age are just a reflection of their parents to some extent. They're a smaller, less developed version of their parents. So they're just receiving whatever their parents imprint onto them. Which, that doesn't stop until they're at least 10 years old. And even then it can still be a thing. So, literally, he's just giving it, his parents what they want. It's like the Satanic Panic when they would ask leading questions to the children, and they would eventually tell them these fake stories that the kids literally made up because in their little minds they were thinking, what is this adult asking me? What do they want? I'm supposed to give them what they want, right? And that's what they do. She imprints that, asks leading questions, and he just gives her what she wants because he's little and impressionable. That's how it is. Now, like I said, Jeff's ability to be a father has been severely handicapped. And I make no effort to hide the fact that I have of my distaste for the particular deity that Jeff worships. He is very morally ambiguous. I'm convinced he's the villain in the story. But Christians themselves are sometimes very lovely people who I believe have simply been misled. And if Jeff wants to similarly mislead his child, that's his decision. But ultimately, this woman, his ex-wife, I don't think she's well mentally. I think she's harmfully imprinting an unrealized desire onto her child because she wanted a girl, which is something that happens. It's a real phenomenon. I may have to do a blog about it at some point. I might do a little side video discussing the phenomenon just to make my point that much more clear. But the point here is to talk about the article and the situation. And now imagine what happens if years later the kid suddenly says, Mom, I was a boy, and you forcibly changed me. And the psychological damage that will come out of this. Why do you think the transgender suicide rate is so high? It's because they're in psychological turmoil because of what they've done to themselves and because of their dysphoria on top of it. I would say the best thing to do is to make them comfortable in their own skin rather than change what their skin looks like. But anyway, please look up SaveJames.com, donate some money.